is decide which issue you'll be lobbying. And I think on Monday you have a choice of issues to lobby. We're now at the point in the legislative session where we're through the first funnel. So there are bills of all natures.
Now, two exceptions to that. One are appropriations bills. Those are bills for spending money. And the other bill, the other exception, major exception, is Ways and Means bills. Those are bills on tax policy. Okay. Now,
specific with us on your points, why you're for an issue, why you're against a particular issue, how it impacts you, or how something may not impact you. That's what we'd like to know.
Talking points, when it relates to you, it's probably definitely tuition. We don't deal directly with tuition, but what we deal with what is the amount of money that comes into the university from the state, which has been declining for many years. Ask your parents this, you might want to ask them, what have you done, what were the sacrifices you made so I could be here? So I could be here at Iowa State University. Because you could take those stories to your home legislator or to your legislator, to one of us, but those stories I think are important. What sacrifices did you make to get here? What sacrifices have your parents made so that you could be here at this university?
So these are folks who have direct impact on the education appropriations bill. So if you want to cut university funding or don't want to cut university funding, whatever your position is, these are good people to talk to.
One thing that I think is very important to me, and I think to most legislators, is the economic engine that the universities are and what they do besides educate kids. But if you take all three Regents institutions together, I think it's a $9 billion investment in the state. That's significant.
Concern about young people leaving Iowa. And one of the reasons is a lot of people go through school, they rack up a lot of debt. Iowa is not a high-wage state. A lot of people feel they have to go to Minneapolis or Chicago or someplace like that to earn enough money to pay back that debt. All right? We don't like young people leaving Iowa. Okay? We're running a surplus. Now, it's hard economic times. And we had to make a lot of cuts last year. And cuts that I didn't want to make. They were very painful. We had to cut the university. We had to cut pretty much everybody in sight. Right? Why did we do that? Right? Why did we run a surplus when money was so tight and we needed the money so much? Well, part of what helped us through the last couple of years has been the money from the Recovery Act from the federal government. Stimulus. Right? That's part of what's helped us through. But that money is going away. And we knew that. We could see that coming. All right? So we knew that we had to build up a little bit of cushion against that loss of federal money. And that's why you see a surplus here of $1/3 of a billion last year and $500 million this year. Actually, this year's number is going to be higher. Would you have sent the check back to Washington and raised tuition $80 million? We put $225 million into K-12 schools. Would they have had to send the check back to Washington and raise property taxes, $225 million? Yes, we used one-time funds. We kept our institutions going. All right. But those dollars aren't there. So we had to plan ahead, and we did plan ahead. And we ran surpluses when we desperately needed money for universities and everything else. We ran surpluses so that we would have additional funds left over to meet the challenges that we could see coming down the pipe.
So what are the reasons for the other people, for instance, in the legislature, who want to continue this sort of trend? What are the justifications for it, or what are they using to support that on the table?
Well, I mean, you know, when you get down there on Monday, you'll have to ask folks for their own justifications for their positions. I don't want to speak for. I don't want to speak for them. I can, you know, there are some folks who think that we should just shrink the public sector. We shouldn't do as much for higher education or K-12, or the governor wants to cut preschool 40%. You know, that's why I have some difference of opinion with the governor. You're entitled to your own position on that, but I think what it comes down to is a different set of priorities as to what kind of a society you want to have and how you want to provide for young people and old people and sick people.
So that would
you mean in terms of what's done here on campus?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if there are services you think are not needed, or services that you want enhanced, whichever direction. But, you know, that's something, a conversation you ought to have with the university administration.
So keep your issue in front of us, whether, you know, you want a program cut, you want a program supported, you know, if we're not hearing that from you often, it tends to go kind of to the bottom, or just because there's so many things out there, we're just not hearing that, oh, that's maybe a priority issue. So if you just kind of keep it up there, whatever your position is, that helps me to say, you know what, gosh, Jason contacted me again, and I've gotten 10 more emails on that same particular issue that are keeping it in my forefront. So I just know that this is an issue focused that I need to keep an eye on.
Time when, you know, you're gonna cut programs.
Yeah.
And make, or else just have very deep programs. You have to make those kinds of choices as you're going along. But I know that the university has been working on this for a long time, and it's been a real struggle.